reason the tola and bed garsor chokchar maso but gunli cabasur to say jain chambur shas and jamsolab shin shas at your chule lab chunya that tagging a layatere or rayestayat chule lab chunya chule mandation chu nandu rang shiwatar and 진담인데 중앙다 초라담의 탐제 생이 동배 추출에 만대발 and 타제대 and 랑산 도스마 라이스마샤 소 랍다 차베 냐신두 데리 랑서 경안두 샤스에는 가린 거 다디직디 단능에 텐투 마소 추나 당배 추나네 and 냐파와나시 and 딜리아 tembatang 시신기 아니 자라여 등에 저기 어떤데 고래 숭고 있어래 저 랍단 잡에 냐신도 진리 랑사이 경안도샤 어다 페지 샤답 투이나 지금 어때래 너나 다 코랑 디나 너두지도와 너나 데두 각주 레토게 남아 지샤량 리수 릭수 마체par 아니 랑몰 쩌기 때라 하르상에we 만두 두다와 제스는 코나 간다 가전 델이야 티 가르레도스나 코도스 예드와 차기여 임버와 딘내지나 하르상에we 만두 다 간다 셰바 세점 릭점 되게 안들이야 대야 세점 릭점 디다니레스 도스샤스는 생기 샤다 템바스는 딘내지레 다
오케이
테레
Gesla, Rinpoche is looking at the second page, the one that is 593, 4 lines from the top, Nibani. So it starts from here. And by the way, also in the auto commentary, in page, just a second, I'm just letting.
단댕이 랍샤부터가는 페이지 랍샤는 되기래.
No.
근데 자전 코레 흉나는 누가 진짜 칼라니 신샤 중间칼라 딩신샤 양조 친구 승신샤 부중을 하간 따신샤 칼라 잡을 제신샤 레벨 달와 신두샤.
And also Gesla in the auto commentary in page 36 or 35 is at the end, and moving on to page 36, there's a list of 6 types of mental placement, so you can have a look at that. Page 35 bottom and page 36 in the auto commentary. All right, as Rinpoche אומר שכאשר אנחנו...
I'm sorry, I have a different page number, so the Hebrew translator just told me, but I can't find it in the text. I'm really sorry, I'm still looking for it, but my page numbers are different placements of the mind. I don't know why. So I'm really sorry, I don't get the whole thing right now, but the point is this. So Rinpoche is talking about different methods of meditation. So basically what Rinpoche talked about, what is most important is that the mind is clear and knowing. So it's this aspect of clarity and knowledge. So if we want to meditate, we have this wish to meditate, we should set out to engage in this kind of meditation and be free from the two extremes, the extreme of excitement and the extreme of laxity. And then here, when we then meditate, when we set out to meditate, when we prepare to meditate, to focus on the mind, well, we're not talking about the subtle type of mind, but we're talking about the coarse mind, the coarse type of mind. Now, with regard to focusing on the mind, well, it's like there's a part of the mind, if you like. So some part of the mind is looking at itself. And again, free from excitement and free from laxity. It's like one part of the mind is looking at itself. And then through the power of meditation, you attain the view. This is how it's described. So, so first, in terms of attaining the view, based on meditation. So first you need to meditate. You need to meditate is the practice of calm abiding that you apply first, and then only later do you engage in the practice of the view. So it's calm abiding. It's this concentrated state, and you should do this for a few days. For a few days, meditate in such a way, trying to keep your mind free from any kind of plans, from any kind of discursive thoughts, different ideas kind of popping up in your mind. That is basically the goal. And so doing such, if you engage in that kind of practice, well, there are two kinds of methods as to how I go about it. One method is to cut off any thoughts. So to not, excuse me, I'm just going. So one way is to just like a swordsman, kind of just cut off any kind of thoughts, any kind of disturbing thoughts, and make sure that they don't arise. That is one way to deal with it. But the other method, so the second method, the first one is to just kind of let them go, face them in the sense of like just cut them as they arise. But the other way to deal with them is to use whatever appears, utilize it, whatever appears, and allow for this to appear. So there are different methods by way of which you allow the mind to enter its natural state. So here Rinpoche actually read from the text, and that's my problem right now, because I can't find it. I've got different page numbers here, so I don't find these 6 methods in the text itself. Though the Hebrew translator told me page 36, but my page numbers are different. Anyway, so I'll just try and lead you through it the way I understood it. So there are different methods, as I said, 6 types of methods by which you can place the mind, by which you can place your consciousness or your mind. One way is like as if you were to sink into water, like you enter water, you kind of enter into the experience. So that is one way in which you just allow yourself to be absorbed into the experiencing entity of the mind. The second type is to be like an eagle who cruises in the sky and just from above kind of just watches what happens. So in this really relaxed fashion, to place the mind in its natural state, in the sense that you just cruise the sky and you're just observing what is going on. Then there's another way by which you act. It's like a child, like you act like a child who has got no sense, oh, this is that, and is that, this and that, and so forth, who's just open to anything, this kind of openness without holding on to this, that, or something else. So again, a different kind of approach, again, by which you allow anything, like I said, anything to arise, and just don't hold on to anything, don't get absorbed into this, that, and the other. Then there's also this kind of space-like kind of attitude, where just as the sun kind of like arises, and you have that space-like quality in which the sun can arise, and everything is pervaded by that kind of space-like aspect. So this would be another way to go about it. And something else Rinpoche mentioned was you're like a little fish in the ocean, like a little fish with mindfulness and introspection, applying these 2 mental factors. You apply mindfulness and introspection, kind of being aware of the object, not letting go of it, at the same time being introspective about it. And then Rinpoche also mentioned again about like the water kind of sinking into the water, and he was reading through the text. So this is unfortunately what I won't be able to do right now. I'm still looking for it in my text.
זאת הצבה של תודעה על צלילות, שהוא טבע של התודעה, הוא לא מוסתר על ידי מחשבות, הוא לא מוסתר על ידי מחשבות או דברים מחשבות שעולות בתודעה.
Yes, unfortunately, I have no idea where we got to in the text. If anyone knows, please let me know. I cannot find it. So I just repeated what Rinpoche just said, but I cannot find the part in the text where it describes the 6 ways to keep the mind on the object.
מעבר לזה, רגע, אני רוצה לבדוק עוד פרט אחד
Where am I going to find this?
אוקיי, אז פה הטקסט של רימפוצ'ה שולח אומר, כאשר גלים עולים בים,
744.
לא נסחפים על ידי הגלים, אלא מתוך שהייה במים, בגוף של מים.
Just a sec, I think I almost got it.
וכל התחושות שלנו, כל הדברים שעולים בנו, הם מתפוגגים אל תוך הריק של התודעה.
I think in a cultivation, secret cultivation. Fortunately, it's also now I got a message. The explanation is on page 745. Okay. All right. In particular, separated the only no sound stage. I'm sorry, this is wrong. This is not the right page. I'm really sorry. I have no idea because someone sent me page 744. And it's not on there. 745. No, it's a totally different text altogether. I have this text, Stages of the Path in the Oral Transmission. Unfortunately.
בלי לאשר משהו, בלי לשלול משהו, בלי שאיפות.
So if anyone's got the book by Tupten Jimba, you can tell me what page number it is.
מחשבה שמאשרת, מחשבה ששוללת, איזושהי שאיפה, איזושהי רצון מסוים. אנחנו בלי לעסוק.
Okay, I'm getting different messages.
מתבוננים בטבע המחשבה הזאת.
6 methods of resting the mind.
ואנחנו מבלים את זמננו עד שהמחשבה הזאת מתפוגגת. Okay.
Okay. It's just the 6 methods of resting the mind.
Geshe, if you're still looking for the page, all right. So in the text that Rinpoche sent us in the morning, it's on the second page.
This document, teaching document, Okay.
Okay, so Geshe Rinpoche said that the text that he sent in the morning is not important. So if you look at the auto commentary, the 6 ways of positing the mind start at the bottom of page 35 in the commentary, and it continues to the top of page 36. So you have positing the mind like a sun that is free from clouds, like Garuda in the sky, like a boat in the great sea, like a child looking at a temple.
Boat said no.
No.
Jatsu Chimbu Sing Sha said Sigmata Imbere.
Lasso.
Jatsu Chimbu Jing Shas. Sing member Jing Imbere.
Lasso.
Ganglia chulap dine jagor the chuting megar bed chugo me dayor.
Garuda in the sky. I don't have that.
אז אוקיי, אז בימים האחרונים לפני הקורס לקחתי את הפרשנות העצמית ו...
Sorry, I don't find it. Ship on a great ocean. Okay, ship on a great ocean. Ship on a great ocean.
הצבא כמו סירה בים הגדול זה לא התרגום הנכון כי יש האיות בטיבטית הוא לא נכון. אז זה לא כמו סירה בים הגדול, הוא
Ship
כמו
on a great ocean. No, I don't find it.
גם עם גלים
Sorry.
עולים ויורדים בים.
It's the last paragraph on page 744. I keep getting these messages from people, but my page numbers are somehow different. I don't know how that's possible. Just 1 sec. I'm really sorry for that. This way, make the supplication. These 3 forms of supplication are called the outer cultivation, inner cultivation. Now apply the supplication. No, this is totally different. Oh, here it is. There, rest it like the sun, free from the clouds. Great. Rest it like the great Garuda soaring in the sky. Rest it like the ship on the great ocean. Rest it like a small child looking inside a temple. Rest it like the tracks of a bat flying in the sky. Rest it like a flat cotton wool. By these methods of resting the mind. Thank you so much. Whoever sent it to me. Ping. 1159. Great.
למים, אבל אני אבדוק את זה, אני אחשוב על זה בהפסקה ונראה אם אפשר למצוא משהו טוב יותר. Nella di Koranian di seltsam, riksam, se di tewaina, konso Korangi kare tagiome, shida taguiome, shida sevo mindusa, seltsam, riksam se di kare taguionas.
Same. That's same tishe gogoras. Nga shigidu, nga tungudu, nga drugudu, nga drogo, degos, tindelo chiduas, chungsol kanya chiduas, didu chungsol chiduas. That davegi, and
Great, I found it. It's on my page on 912.
Jangbachi muisin tuya, whatilla, setsam, rigsam sadigande, that lever was.
So the question now was, as far as I know, because I was still searching for it. So the question was, well, what does it mean that the mind is able to know? When we say that the mind can be aware, the mind can be, can know something, what does it mean? Well, it means that the mind is able to be aware of an object, of something. There's something there, some object that the mind can perceive. So in that sense, it has that kind of ability. Once again, my apologies for not being able to translate before. I'll try to catch up. So now it makes sense to me what Rinpoche said. So like the mind should be like the sun, free from clouds, such that you can actually have the sun appearing, you have the sun appear, you have the
제와 통화매반 내 용년의 수용벌 규직내 직도 규직 용년 샘트 용벌 왔어 루부 용어말 각게 말다 샘트 용벌 왔어 디니 치만 용년데 들어왔어 답변나 만조 단다 파지 공예 셰바티기 셰바라고 되기 상말로 배제 단제 수다 티로 되기 상마 뭐스야 어떻게 상말로 셰바티기 지기 알아봤어 레박지고 계절 말아봤어 셰바티기 지기 알아봤어 다 드네 니 쿠베 갑리야 왕복공아 파 누구도 왔어 왕복공아도 파 누이제 시바 말아봤어 양교들이야 니 두부 쿠베 갑래 셰바지 예대버도 왔어 된다베기 니기 셰바사게 셰바디 다 공고 가르스는 세상 릭zam지 간로 마도 샤야미도 왔어 다 드네 때스 라르 조인도 니람 땅도 왔어 다 강바 통고도 리 통고도 니람 뭐시부 통고도 다 디게디 ngosibiti yomarte korangi tinar tunaji ya sharje ya shayode shasa sul shar shebatel sharge yorbas sheba meva ombol shar marvas nigi shebal sharvas tende indu tenda vegita nilam tambe kap ni sebe kap ta yunan naso chartuya yunan naso ngösentuya dige 가르레스 랍스나 다 세점 rigzam chigi 아니 sheba saya chigi zingi yedaba chigi 다 dindichi redo was di indu 다 단다 봐도 말한서 가르 있느냐 유직다 자네 유젠티다 숭리 체네 난 가산 내 침이 나지지지 대산이들이 로고 섬거도 쓰네 유직다 자네 로디도 was sheba 상을 다디 유직다 만데바 유젠 sheba 짱바지 톨이야 얘는 뭐진답 제스네 아니 생각 못해서 군조 못해서는 dindi치리야 데려와서 다코 찍지나 깔카고 쉬우지 예 짠매 되게지 아니 dindi치 레데 아니 다기 철거 민두데 총개 라인스 다 총개 코나 다 가봐도 쟁에 코나 라시에 들어가라 왔어 디테스 고대아르지 두왔어 다내 단다지 시하고 삼바다 제고 삼바다 도저 강가 시아버지를 왔어 철 쌤 못하고 쌤지 삼땅 고삼바 다가라 에네 쌤 티가나 차기 열어왔어 근데 인자 세점 rigzam기 시아버지디 단다 총견 코나라 세점 rigzam 대가지 레데도 왔어 총견라 나 대자와티 다지 에네 수수 유유젠도 바 고셔ገብ에 설치체네 유젠 샘팅이 유르샤네 안 대유도 체베 유젠지기 아니 무엇인가 된대지체네 아니 전시기 균장스네 다 디레 다 그래서 들라 네 디네 더야스 자면도 아니 거라잡고 저대야래셔
세상에 레모체 딜라 짬자 딜라 믹세기 땡 짬자 릭짬 짬자 딜라 딜 믹세기 고야지 여러분
또 듣고야 여러 가르르스나 단다 네 빼나 짬다때 가르여레스니 단다 녜지 시기도 왔다 캐랑 그와데 짬다때 가르여스니 녜지 셰버봐 짬다 셰베 짬다때 캐랑 나가다티 아니 고알라 때네 아니 녜티 그티 시기도 섬지 녜 시기도 와다 나가 저버다티 바까버봐 티 인지미지 나가 저버 셰바 마르와 캐랑 짬다 셰베 나가 저버 셰바 마르와 코다 데네 짬다 승인디 어티 가르여레사티 땅에 셰 근데 인자 유직다 만데바 유수제 얌다 간 셰바 마이바 찍다 만데바 에네 셰다 단다 짬다 승인데 가르여레 승니 셰베기 셰바 대점 짬다 사 다티 파까지 유트 파까지 유제 디 하코냥기 세점 릭점 사기 세점 릭점 사디 유다만데 버치기 어때래다 나가라 섬선 디치기 찍지도 깔 카타주래 찍지도 데려다.
So for all of you who didn't get the explanation, I will do this as soon as I'm done with this here. I'll do this a little bit later whenever I get time, but I want to answer now Rinpoche's question, because the question really that was asked is, when you say mind, you describe mind as mere knowing, as mere clarity. What does that actually mean? Like mere, why do you say only knowing, only aware, only clear? Where does that word only come from? So that was the original question. And so Rinpoche explained, well, 24 hours, we're never separate from this mind. We're always with our mind, and our mind always has some content, always has an object. And it's actually been with us since beginningless time. There's never been a time when we didn't have mind, when we didn't have consciousness. And it goes on. It is that this continuum of awareness, this continuum of experiencing an object, that goes on to the next life. And here, just talking about the rough consciousness, I mean, sometimes it's more subtle, sometimes it's a coarse mind, but the point is we need to recognize that kind of mind. So first Rinpoche didn't explain exactly, didn't get into the mere yet. He did later, but first he gave this, talked about just in general, the mind is always there. And we're not talking about the brain here. We're talking about this experiencing entity, this aware entity, which is there even when we fall asleep. So when we fall asleep, the coarser minds, the coarser types of consciousness, such as the sense consciousnesses, the coarser conceptual minds, well, they dissolve. They are no longer active. And now a subtler type of mind becomes active. And the subtler type of mind means first the mind when you're in deep sleep is very subtle. And then when you start dreaming, the mind becomes a little coarser, not as coarse as when you're awake, but the dream kind of mind that arises. And that is this dream mind. Well, with that mind, all sorts of things appear. A house appears, a mountain appears, your friend appears. Even your friend is not actually in your room, but it may appear to your mind. So your mind being clear, the friend can appear to the mind. So this lucidity or clarity, well, that allows for the friend to dawn to your mind. The word that's also used is to dawn, like D-O-W-N, dawn. So it can arise to your mind. And it doesn't dawn, that is, it doesn't appear. It doesn't appear to your sense faculties, like your eye sense power and so forth. No, it does appear in this case to the dream mind. It appears only to the mind. So it just appears to that. And so therefore, here you have an object that can appear to the mind and is perceived by the mind. The mind can know it. The mind perceives it. So in that sense, we can understand that it's mere knowing. It's mere clarity in that it's just, it has that clear attitude, clear kind of quality or clarity. Anything can appear to it. And the mind has the ability to know it, to be aware of it. So what you do when you do this meditation here is you don't focus on the object. You focus on what the mind does with the object. What does it do? So usually when our mind kind of is just left on its own, it starts thinking, I will go here, I will do this, I will do that, and so forth. It always has some kind of content. So Rinpoche says maybe it's really difficult. It's so difficult to put into words, but the point is it's really hard to say so, but still try to just keep with this, to get this sense of the clarity of this knowing or aware ability. So it's difficult. I mean, in the end, you won't be able to find the mind as such. I mean, it's not something findable, but the point, nonetheless, on the conventional kind of level, there's this clarity, there's this aware quality. So here you need to separate the mind from its object. So this is what Rinpoche first said in a general way, saying this is how we need to understand the mind, that ability of an object to appear to it, the possibility that something appears to it, and that the mind then apprehends it, then becomes aware of it, perceives it. And then the Hebrew translator, he again said, well, but why do you say mere clarity? Why is it in Tibetan like riktsam, which kind of translates to mere knowing, having the ability to know, as Rinpoche said earlier, or mere awareness, or mere clarity? Where does that come from? And then Rinpoche said, well, to exclude anything other than these two qualities, in the sense that, well, even the words Rinpoche uses to express this, so the words Rinpoche uses to explain to you what the mind's qualities are, well, we're not talking about that. You can exclude those. Those are excluded from when Rinpoche says clarity, awareness. That's one part. But also to separate, because the mind actually, in actuality, cannot be separated from its object. It always has an object. It always has some content. But separating it here now from the object and just focusing on what the mind does with that object. It is clear, so it's got that clarity which enables the object to appear. So it's got that clarity, that kind of quality, and it's got the quality of being aware of what appears, being aware of an object. So it's just that, not more than that. not less than that. So the mere, the word mere here, it's mere clarity, mere awareness, implies, therefore, if you separate the mind from the object, if you just think of the mind itself, what it does, it is this knowing entity, this conscious entity. It is conscious of its object, it's aware of its object. So it just separates it conceptually. We're trying to conceptually separate the mind from the object and just focus on what the mind does. It allows for the object to appear, and it then becomes aware of the object, it becomes conscious of the object, it's even able to understand the object. So that is what Rinpoche just explained. So if there's a little bit time, no.
동산 남가 따부다 지양 차베 시게와 세다 셈티기 케추티 디숭도 와스 딱그 대시에 디나라 가르두스나 냠샤 디갑라 에네 당신 싸와 세티 케추지 마트 당신 싸와 세티 케추지 수천 경모보 강도야 마주베 동상에 와지 남가던다와 임바디 케주니바 야코 남가던다와 지 인데바 지 동상에 인데바 지라 에네 베디 델리아 케주 셴카리얼스나 율상에 이 지야 에네 멜로 당발라 숭예 차바 야 차는 차르스바 나시 에네 셀시가와 지 다당 수당 지당 도저 강당 강이네야 람사 도스 녜투야게 멜론 당발라 숭녜따르 셀세게와 찌야 차와 단 데네 디케주 숨바이나 시바이는 지 차송아 다 디미기 무슨다 타베 냠차르스 디레 디마레사지 메데녜 베데 셀점 릭점 셀세데 살바 임바 수진 용어 마주베 동상에 임바세데 셀점 셀 디서르제 릭점 생에데 멜론 탐발 숭네 차르스베나지 엔 딘데지 엔 게제지 숭구요다 상게 디기 엔타 셰바디기 케주 무슨 딘데지도와
So now Rinpoche said,
verse 15.
so Rinpoche actually now is, if you follow Geshe Tupten Jinpa's text, it's verse number 24. So Rinpoche said so Rinpoche just now said, well, he read this part, which is verse number 24, and then the explanation in my text is 913. So in there it says, page 913, it's first quotes, it gives the quote of the root text, it quotes the root text, and thereafter explains what it means. And Rinpoche says this is the explanation of, again, what does it mean to be mere knowing, to be mere awareness and mere clarity, since that was the question. So I'll read it myself as well. Here, so the root text says, in this way, as you maintain meditative equipoise, its nature, the nature of the mind, will dawn as unobscured, as by anything, as lucid and clear. So Rinpoche said in this context, so this gives you a sense of that clarity. It's unobscured, not obscured by anything. And it's lucid and clear. So in the sense that anything kind of can appear to it. And since it goes on to say, it does not exist in any physical way, so anything physical, as a pure vacuity, just like space.
그래서 디라 당시 신투 사와서 데 친구메바
중국 다 냠샤 계지신 냠샤 뭐 에네 당신 싸와 사야지 중국 견단다 당신 싸와 수쟁이 뭐 강도 냠마 주베 남카다고 셰보코라 동상에 와 텐디지마 아코 딜라 에네 유진베 차여베 인자 멜론 숭년따 살시가 와 찌야차와.
So Rinpoche kind of added to this, saying that, well, here, first of all, it's this mind, it dawns as unobscured by anything, it's lucid and clear. This is the nature of the mind, in this case, the meditative equipoise, but in general, the mind as well. So unobscured, lucid, and clear. That just shows that the mind can be free from excitement, can be free from any kind of laxity, and just have that lucid and clear nature with anything appearing to it. And then saying it does not exist in any physical way as a pure vacuity. So it's this non-physical entity, just like space, so that anything can be taken to mind, where everything appears vividly. And so Rinpoche then also kind of briefly explained what is in the auto commentary when it says here, the nature, you will experience the nature of the mind as lucid and utterly clear. It does not exist in any physical way. So just like pure space, it's like a vacuity, like it's this spaciousness that, like reflections appearing in an unblemished mirror, whatever object it encounters, good or bad, appear clearly and vividly. So like in a mirror, things can appear to it, anything can appear to it, and there's this this awareness. So there's this awareness of that.
루셈 신장기 대회 심베 다 신자미요와 있나 지레 어 딘데지 심베 갑라 띵인진데 이 신내 차그레스 다기 냠샤티 신내 승 차그레스 다 덴다베 셈기 띵인지 셈고 셰바 되게 가르르스나 무시 준주소 연대 망부 중공인바 어 케바르도 티고 숨게 팔람 남자 닐레테네 토바스 어 딘데기 케주 숨고도와 어 셈기 닐루 셈기 다 ngô sung thone sem sing di yende di thone ngushe junju gi yende di tel den yung gu yoba tibo sung gi phalam gi namsha gi tel den thu gu yoda ba o inde sung gu do
So therefore, and it goes on to say it is undefinable by any identification of it's this or it is not that. However, however stable such a concentration may be, if it is not imbued with physical and mental pliancy, it is said to be a single-pointedness of a mind belonging to the desire realm. And it goes on to say here, and she explains, because here we're talking about meditative equipoise, a particular kind of very focused and concentrated, absorbed mind. Well, as it goes on to say here, this meditative concentration, having these basic qualities of clarity or knowledge, well, imbued with physical and mental pliancy, on the other hand, is described as tranquil abiding. So distinguishing between the mind that is endowed with this mental and physical pliancy, and Rinpoche says, well, in particular, free from the two obstacles, excitement and laxity. So a mind that is free from excitement and laxity here, that is described as such tranquil abiding. And tranquil abiding, or calm abiding as it's called, or shamatha, will be the source of numerous higher qualities such as clairvoyance and other supernatural feats. In particular, all the path of the three vehicles are attained on the basis of tranquil abiding. So tranquil abiding or calm abiding. Therefore, here, tranquil abiding or shamatha, it's the source, first of all, Rinpoche explained, of many great qualities such as having clairvoyant kind of abilities, and supernatural, being able to engage in supernatural feats. But on top of that, it's also the basis of calm abiding, or the basis of shamatha, is that which you need in order to then practice the three paths, the path of the three vehicles. the path, either from the point of view of a Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, or Bodhisattva, or taking into tantric path, taking that into consideration. Anyway, 3 paths. This is so. Anyway, let's continue.
semgi shakta temba sayate di shaktan chu shiragi ta kotinema hakwaya jiri ta zo semgi shiza cheba singindi sem ngwe sunga sayate ta kechumgan lebrabas ta nga zo lobchen rangal ma dosha ges.
So Rinpoche said, well, anyway, what was important to have these 6 aspects. So they have the 6 aspects of how to rest the mind, like free from clouds, like a great Garuda, or an eagle, like a ship on the great ocean, and so forth. So these are the different explanations that are given here. Anyways, so Rinpoche says he will continue now with the actual text. What was most important? So you have the different ways of kind of placing the mind in its natural state, or well, that's one aspect, but even more important is the aspect of identifying the basis, to analyze, to investigate what is the basis here, the mind itself, that foundation on the basis of which we meditate, the object of meditation. That was most important. So Rinpoche gave you some explanation on that. Of course, now I need to find where we got to yesterday. Oh yeah, I found it. So in my text, it's page number 895.
semgi chuni tena bebe kone en nyamsulemba ta tawa teres naru chudu gombe zons o ta ji tumune cheba chigi en weser yulu o tige dirbash numa milam en pardo o ta tige di powa tuzo gomeati en gombe zong res en tablam samu chebe zongs ta ngarang samzuchen tablam saya dinalaya tarashugo chawatine chiginal geja chungwanashi ene milamgi ene sawala soba milam nidugi sawala soba das tuzo tablam re samgiyo sawakor guyore sedugi sawakorsum nidugi sawakorsum ene chidugi sawakorsum o tuzo chedere tablam samu chobe zongs tenrabaji chungna kusum lundu jibu zongs ane chugu longu chugu sumbuti ane bete ta druptuyagi ane jibu beme lundu druptuya sigi na re kanda lundu sachi duwa o ta lundu kandijir kargi na o yamena dengi yemer jagi na ta kandina kusum lundu ane kanda chugu longu chugu sum ane druptuyagi nuba jogres she sungshins nye tumo atung she ngajo kya chawan zes da di kazan dönsar tuzo ga ingyu kazan dönsar 대단 tumba chuji sabengi naru chudu jebeti mila yinje tele me che jung taros je gambo be ya tomo tumo gombe nyusu ngondu kyobaso shindu mangos o tendechre.
She read continuing with the fortresses, the 4 fortresses, briefly went through yesterday. So to turn down the volume. The Exalted Milarepa 2 fast practice, the Exalted Milarepa 2 fast practice primarily the 6 yogas of Naropa according to the oral tradition of the glorious Naropa and Mapa, and then actualized Mahamudra. He writes, so Milarepa writes, Mahamudra is the fortress of the view. The 6 yogas of Naropa are the fortress of meditation. So in this context, Rinpoche briefly mentioned some of the 6 yogas. So for instance, inner heat, the dream, kind of lucid dreams or dream meditation, transference of consciousness, meditating on the intermediate state, inner heat, and so forth. So the 6 yogas of Naropa. And then you have the profound method path, which is the fortress of conduct. Now, the profound method path, Rinpoche said, well, Rinpoche addressed this morning in response to one of your questions when someone asked about utilizing the dream in such a way to accumulate merit and to purify negativities. And Rinpoche said, well, the method of lucid dreaming, for instance, in the way described this morning, where you utilize the mind in such a way that you grow familiar with the different stages of the absorptions and so forth, as well as considering the fact that there are 9 aspects of practice, where you have 3 in relation to the waken, the state of being awake, the state of dreams, and the state of dying. So here in this context, again, those are all profound method path, which is a fortress of conduct where you utilize, for instance, the dream and so forth for your practice. And then lastly, as to the last fortress, it says spontaneous realization of the 3 bodies is the fortress of fruition. Now here Rinpoche says, well, this spontaneous realization may refer to the effortless realization of the 3 bodies. So the 3 bodies being the Dharmakaya, or the truth body, the Sambhogakaya, or the enjoyment body, and the Nirmanakaya, or the emanation body. So these are the 3 bodies of a Buddha. But you could also take the word spontaneous to mean the inseparability, the indivisibility of the true truth. That is another way of looking at it, which is that she's not sure what the spontaneous actually refers to, but you can interpret it in these different ways. Then Rinpoche continued to read, referring to his short A of Tumo. Milarepa also sang its elevated praises. In line with this, the Dharma Master Sapan also says,
sunguduwa tumu we lamla jangba soja godes kapele kansa tambe lejen rimgi padne temperature she sunshi kansa ndela rimgi be tanye jang zetos kansa tambe lejen le tambo warjibula and rimgi padne temperatures tambo donga tumu we lamjirimba ti jesu nga ki ene tumu mayimbe ene wangda ene tamzita ene kirimta ene tuso ngondo dogores zorin gomba otigiti ene gogres ne ta re ta shashan digmendo chichena kenazo ti shunai digisare pena sanga nyime tibarumbo gu sengenti tibarumbo gote kansa minda wage nyamslaya tole sungbache yimbare nyindegi rijala nyindegi tiba ranjegi rijala ranjegi tiba tijengi chanju simbe rijala ane chanju simbe tindesche angag rijala dosene ane kirim zon dos yimbare ya sho ngoy chingtana kansa chi ni ane ngoba zoba sa gebala tibarumbo gote kangal labgo kararesna tenshil labgo tenri chuni labgo ane tapshi chanju samda tongninje nyingo chenge tumo lamjirimba tigetil labgo re ane chaju juju nenjo jugi ane karso re lamgi ne tiget chama kengo re ane tene zoba chmo adi yoga jangwala ngelia ma kirim gongo re ma keba ma yoga gongo re ane zalung til ne dunbe lung anu yaga ngondo rogo 그래 가사 당배 레전지나 되게 상황 ngondo rogo 그래 어떤데 인도 rimgi ban temba yisne kujuya tosu yimbare 다 narki 장소 여den게 지임바이나 ene 담아타네 ene 조바 첨부사다 찾아 첨부생 그러 가도 땡샤게이나 엔 디도그레스 가산 어떤데스네 제rum부제 룽지야 르마사중 룽지야 장도와 lung umar shuba changwa shigini mikbal jila deba zangi ane umar duachi yungures o dus cheni ane semla mikbal deba zangi ane tandedi ane karingu wese chayaji ngondu chetuyaji yungures o direta.
And Rinpoche continued, guidance known as the six yogas of Naropa is none other than outstanding from Milarepa. Master Gampopa too first practiced Tummo and then attained manifest experience of the innate mind. There are thus numerous examples. Then he goes on to say, thus, to engage in the meditative practice of Mahamudra, referred to in the context here of Tantra, it is necessary indeed to receive the four perfect empowerments, train in the generation and completion stages, and be trained in the common path as well. So here Rinpoche explained, well, it's important that we also need certain causes and conditions to come together in order for us to be able to practice. So for a beginner, for instance, well, they go step by step. And first, they need to attain the four perfect empowerments, the different empowerments, and train also in the path that is common to both Sutra and Tantra. So the Sutric path, and only thereafter, well, first study or practice in the Sutric path, then in the Tantric path, receive the different empowerments and so forth. So that is important, therefore, for a person training in such a way, or to prepare themselves for the highest practices. The epitome says, beings on the beginner stage should be taught the gradual path, it says in the auto commentary. Such a person is given the designation of a gradualist. So Rinpoche said, well, that is a person who gradually moves through the different paths, practices the different path, the different kind of stages. Now, here with regard to a beginner in particular, so as just said, they have to practice in the Sutric path, they have to practice the Tantric path, and then attain the different empowerments and so forth. So in such a way, first having trained the mind in the Sutric path, and once they're ready, then they enter the Tantric path. Well, that also refers to, after having received the empowerments, to keeping the what are called the samayas, or the binding pledges, as they're also called. And then you engage in the practices of the generation stage and the practices of the completion stage. Now, therefore, when we talked previously, Rinpoche mentioned the 9 yanas, or the 9 vehicles. Well, this can be seen in different ways. It can be seen from the point of view of a gradualist, and it can be seen from the point of view of totally different people. Because we've had before, there's this term that was used before, the subitist, someone who attains sudden awakening. But there are also those, and especially those in the beginning, who need to be gradualists. But anyway, if you take the 9 yanas, or the 9 precepts, you can take them, sorry, the 9 vehicles, you can explain it from the point of view, well, there are those beings who enter the Shravaka path. They have the type of mind that makes it appropriate for them to enter the Shravaka path. And then there are others, for them it's more appropriate to enter the Pratyeka Buddha path. Then there are others, for them it's more appropriate right from the beginning to enter the Bodhisattva path, and so forth. So there's one way of looking at it, that everyone has different predispositions, different abilities, and so forth. But you can also look at this, the 9 yanas, from the point of view of just one person, in the sense that anyone who practices the Dharma, so when they newly enter the Dharmic practices, when they newly proceed to practice and so forth, well, they need to start with the Four Noble Truths. And those are the teachings that are typical for the Shravakayana, the first one. And they also need to practice in the 12 links. They need to practice the 12 links, which are typical for the teachings of the Pratyeka Buddha Yana. So those they have to practice. So in the sense, they also follow the practices common to the Shravaka vehicle. They engage in the practices common to the Pratyeka Buddha, Pratyeka Buddha vehicle. So the first 2 of the 9 vehicles. And then the Bodhisattva path, they have to practice the Bodhisattva path in the sense of practicing bodhicitta, of course, the understanding of emptiness, and so forth. And once their mind has been trained sufficiently in the common, in the sutric path, which are described by the first three vehicles, then you engage in Tantra, starting with the three lower classes of Tantra: action Tantra, performance Tantra, and yoga Tantra. And once you've done that, you then enter highest yoga Tantra. But first you need to practice what's called Mahayoga, which is the seventh of the 9 vehicles. So the action Tantra, performance Tantra, and yoga Tantra are the vehicles number 4, 5, and 6. And then 7 would be Mahayoga. We practice Mahayoga, and Mahayoga means
lamdi chupchen parchir lamegi gyude susu wangyu layang shubatan wangyu layang shubatan chuji saben kigyang narot taba wanguru tang rimni chugi zo ze je sungla jizun kigyang min ngaser tezo nyen chena bükyola lhaju ki kabayo jugo wanda chilapcha samu nyingyu ki damgachi wata tinisi chaja chungma chebala ngayliya samu wanda chilap gugures tene nyingyu ki damga jingis tinisi jizumele tinisi sungudwa shiye sungbe chero tsur nidar ane sapindita ki dungsun rabje legyan ngegi chaja chenpo ne peche mero sang dungsun rabye lesin sapindita sungre dungsun rabye ngegi chaja chenpo ne wangle chungwe yishe tang rinpa nyegi tingzin le chungwe rangjung yishe yin she ta wang kuwe kapgi ane tachi wangdu su karsa dire tokdul se tokba ta tolwa sachi tokdul tunyamba sachi yungu yore o tinde kapgi ane chi leto chen tinde la wang korang kapla chaja chimo ngoto yachi yungu yoye mare kandar nyuksamgi dewa chimbi yishigi yu tongba nyingaya tinde yungu yoye mare tinde yinza wang le chungwe yishe tans rinpa nyigi tingzin le seyindu kirim zorimgi nane ane ta zorimgi nakabgi ane tingzin les o ta shetsawa takana re ane saundibe choke chebena soje zorim karo ya ane lung umala shuk ne tim sum chebali chungwe ane nyuksemgi yutongwa nyingayaji o toosjine 장고를 내두는 걸 때네 아니 용하지 연구하러 다코 검사디 아니 파주기 조름 qabla 그런 대가랑 아니 sem 되네 아니 그런 갈서 그래 던지외세기 이제 돈이 무슨 등에 둬야지 셈기 내로 무슨 등에 육sem기 대코나니 무슨 등에 둬야지 용으로 와 어디 인자 rem바니기 띵전래 중외 랑중 이셰이 랑중 이셰 다 랑중 이셰이 사드라 구주 정보 요래 랑중 생겐데 생게스 남주 생게스야데 딱 들어봐 생게 생겐데 통화 매바네 여대봐 타마야 타와 윤기 아니 된대지 인자 아니 랑중 스코야 생게스 코야 들에 이시 셰케루 센데 탐제기 공부 미tumba 매바 이노스.
So to continue with what Rinpoche said previously. So if you go step by step, well, first you enter the Mahayoga. Mahayoga referring to the generation stage where you meditate on the deity and so forth. And thereafter it's Anu Yoga, where you engage in the practices, for instance, of the of entering this, of allowing or letting the winds to enter the central channel, to abide there and eventually to dissolve. And then at the very end, you need Ati Yoga, which is the more advanced state in the sense of like practicing Dzogchen, the great completion, Mahamudra, on the highest level for a person who's directly realized emptiness. And so in such a way, it's like a gradualist. That would be the example of a gradualist. And the text goes on to read, such a person, and Rinpoche continued to read as well, such a person is given the designation of a gradualist. Therefore, most of the great siddhas, or the great accomplished masters of this path, are found within the lineage of the empowerment rites of individual classes of tantras as well. So the Dharma Master Sapan also says, Naropa emphasized as his teaching the empowerment rite and the 2 stages, which you just read through. And then the exalted Milarepa also states, if you listen to what I will teach, O son, you'll have the good fortune of divine Dharma.
Narotapa Wangkurtang.
Narotaba.
Narotapa di
Benje Narobache.
Tapa saji.
Ene Wangkuatang, ene Rinbanigi Chugizol, Zeres.
Tapa di Karina.
Narobare.
Naropare.
Naroba Korare.
Okay.
So the Hebrew translator had a quick question. As part of the Dharma, Master Sapan also says it wasn't immediately clear from the Tibetan that Naropa was meant, and so he just checked. So because of So Rinpoche says it's probably because of the meter of the verse. So it doesn't say Naropa, but it says Narotapa. So it probably doesn't have any specific meaning, this ta that's added here. So in the English, it's not obvious that this ta is also mentioned. So Narotapa actually is Naropa himself, who emphasized as his teaching the empowerment rite in the 2 stages. That was the question by the Hebrew translator. Anyway, the exalted Milarepa also states, if you listen to what I will teach, O son, you will have the good fortune of divine Dharma. So here he's saying, well, I'll open the door through empowerment and blessing. Rinpoche just kind of rephrased that, like saying, well, the door to this Dharma is open through the different empowerments and the blessings from the deity. And he goes on to say, and give you profound instruction of the oral transmission. So then Rinpoche gave this explanation. Well, Rinpoche finished with that and continued to read along the same lines, the clear differentiation of the 3 vows. So Rinpoche says those are by Sapandita. He believes that the text is the clear differentiation of the 3 vows. It says very clearly here in English. In Tibetan, it's not as obvious, but Rinpoche says, yeah, that must be the clear differentiation of the 3 vows, which are by Sapandita. Then Rinpoche read, as for our Mahamudra, this is the gnosis arisen, or the primordial wisdom arisen from the empowerments. It's the self-arisen gnosis that emerged from concentration during the 2 stages. So Rinpoche said it's actually possible for some beings, when their minds are ripe, when they're ready, that this gnosis, this primordial wisdom actually arises during the empowerments. So there's this explanation, there's an explanation where you whereas there's this realization and there's liberation, or sometimes also described as there's conception and there's liberation. So these 2 aspects, when you attain the empowerment, giving rise then to this gnosis, to this primordial wisdom. Anyways, you find this explanation here from the point of view of, for instance, the Guhya Samaja Tantra. So basically, you need to go through the stages of, in general, you have to go through the stages of the generation stage and then the completion stage and so forth. Practicing also engaging in the practice of, for instance, the winds, the channels, and the drops. When the winds enter the body, when the winds enter the central channels, abide there and dissolve in there. So in the Guhya Samaja Tantra, for instance, this is described. So when you meditate on tantras that are part of what is called Father Tantra. So what you attain is after you first engage in these practices of getting the winds to enter in the central channel, to abide there and to dissolve, well, eventually you'll be able to you're able to attain what is called the meaning or actual clear light mind. When this clear light mind, the subtlest innate mind, realizes emptiness directly. Here it's also described as the self-arisen gnosis.
Moma ginri dusum nguden tongni gomsul te dile shembe tarbela meje pajo ludu sung dinne ti gombayis ta dulu chaje chambut so jojade yum ginri dusum kabne sumbachi imbache nguden tongni girbati imbache ta nguden tongni girbati le ene nyamsu malamba tamje khamba parsha tarwayan dudu meba di pajo ludugi ene gombares 동바 시와 겨와 매비 수사지와 디 식디 가르고 말에 디 룽 콩티 파바 용고 중고 쉬변 돌레 동바 시와 겨와 매비 수 미시에 뺀는 로와 참주로 대다 투증아베 탑주기 르바 야다키니 주버제스네 파바 용고 중고 쉬베 깝긴 도이 깝라 이나야 모 덴바 트베 동 유 덴바 트베 참아시고 르부 덴베 몸바 매바테 남타르 고숨기 된딥 마시나 엔 코알 캠그르 코알 토발라 엔 네버도 엔 디싱고그레스 엔 디치르도 엔 디신시베 탑주 나초지 고네 엔 동바니 템바 자버레스네 디숭고도와 동바시와 깨와 매베 주스나 남다로 고숨데체 미시베는 로와 참주르와스 디된 미시베 남다로 고숨기 동바니게 된 미시베 왕기 코알 캠바레스 미시베는 로와 대다 투징아베 탑술기스네 엔 투증하고 상계 좀 된 데게 탑지 출 리벤 남랑 타예베고네 탑 리바 야다기네 아니 드번 잡아레스 다 동만이기 돼 얘네 용긴도 두숨 나서버 텐데기 토네 얘네 뭐 뚱어데 돈이기 좀 때문에 안 타발 드번 잡아레스 텐데 인자 판조 루두기 아니 타바자 타발야 동만이 해봐 또고 그레스 숨어레스 어디 임어라 시구지 시와 탈베 고치부마도 또 시군이 밤에 어떻게 닥다래 시와 탈바샤 탈바드베 람들라 똥니 또베 이시티 코나마도 델레는 고신다지 매대바 시군이 밤에 델레 셴베 탈벨람 매제스 어디 다 시군이 밤에 버티제 판조 루두수 디네테이 공부시 차자침부 치포데 셈영모주 제배출 균델람의 숭신제스
디라디 챈디라
So then Rinpoche read.
오케이.
제 개부티 민이 말에 유골 정성인데 개부티 민이 말에 용고 좀 쉬비도 나는 그때 생각이 된대야지 제일 무지 당연히 신이 뭔 것도 여래 딜룽도 다 여래 어때네 룽된 chen 된 거야
맞아. 백신님도.
So Rinpoche continued to read. Yeah, that's still one part that I haven't read. So there's thus no disagreement among the authoritative scholars and siddhas on these points. And then Rinpoche continued with Mahamudra of the Sutra system. Rinpoche said, well, so far the text briefly explained the tantric aspect of Mahamudra, and now it proceeds to explain the sutric aspect of Mahamudra. To present Mahamudra of the Sutra system in particular, there's once again the following promise. Okay, so it goes to read, the root text reads, as for the former, this refers to the way of meditating on emptiness, taught explicitly in the long, medium, and short perfection of wisdom. the Supreme Arya Nagarjuna has stated that there's no path to liberation apart from this. Now here what the root text is mentioning, well, the 3 sutras of different length, the long, the medium, and the short sutra, and all of them explicitly set forth emptiness. And as it has been said time and again, well, leave aside Buddhahood. Without realizing emptiness, leave aside Buddhahood, you can't even attain liberation. Even self-liberation will be impossible. So it's said, for instance, in a particular sutra, which is mentioned at the beginning of the text by Lama Tsongkhapa, that distinguishes between definitive and interpretative teachings, called Ocean of Eloquence. Well, in there's a sutric quote, and I don't know the Sanskrit word now, but the king Yugyogyong. So I only have the Tibetan name here, but there was a king. His name was Yugyogyong, whatever was the Sanskrit name, and so he requested a particular teaching, or he asked a question, and it's the sutra requested by this king Yugyogyong. Anyway, in there it says that that the door to peace, is emptiness. So emptiness is the door to peace. Here, peace meaning peace meaning liberation. That is liberation from samsara, and it's only possible. We have to realize emptiness. We have to realize emptiness by understanding what are called the 3 doors of liberation, which refer to 3 types of emptiness, that are distinguished on the basis of emptiness. So the emptiness of the entity. The emptiness of the entity is the first one, the emptiness of a cause, and the emptiness of a result. So in other words, emptiness of entities, emptiness of causes, and emptiness of results. So looking at phenomena from the point of view of being an entity, a cause, and a result, and then the respective emptiness of these phenomena, entity, cause, and result. These are the 3 doors to liberation. So in other words, therefore, the Buddha himself set forth these 3 types of emptiness of the entity, of causes, of results, just to show different types of ways to reflect upon emptiness. So this needs to be definitely known, and the Buddha has shown so many different ways by which we can understand emptiness. Therefore, we need to generate an understanding of these different types of Buddhahood, of emptiness, in order to fully comprehend the ultimate nature of phenomena. So therefore, the Buddha, having taught these endless ways, well, he's taught these endless ways to realize emptiness by way of, for instance, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, the extensive or the long, the medium, and the short or the concise Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. So in different ways, the Buddha set forth the ultimate nature of phenomena, which needs to be understood simply to attain liberation and Buddhahood anyway.
boomche nitiche getong soba o tindes sumba inza shera nyimbu yorba o tindes sumba inza gendri dusums and gebatela booms dintela nitis and dubatela getong bas o ta tuzuya joja nyimbu dubatela shera nyimbus o ta kandar tuzoga shijing korshada tombani korshada sungu yoimba sungu yorba o tinde inza yum gendri dusungi 다 모든 돈이 도배 셰럽 공수 인데스 어디 조자티 무슨 때한테 돈이 도배 셰럽 되체 아니 슈울 때한테 람기 베베 건 때한테 아니 람기 몸버 도배를 받티체 배동원도 기름 봐 모든 돈이 기름 봐 배동원도 기름 봐 탑기 냠랭 기름 봐 어떻게 되체 다 든지 임벌 차샤 셔라 군수인데 니네 택바 숨게 남기 소 담벌 야외 유물에 나싱스 춘디 마임베 타버 드베 람리 민툼바 셴메바 타베 고치부레스 제 판조 루루기 간데숭 열었으나 산게 란사 게남다스 산게제 란게제 닌투 남기 녜 땜베 타베 람네 지부큐스 징니큐스 셴다 메제 자월 녜스 다 동니도베 이시기 람 티코네코네 엔 로고레사지 어트레 셰숭신 데르마세 도지 특발라야 닐레 셴바다 타베 따웨 야와 메데스 지준 사뱅기 바로 친다 상알라 따웨 야와 셰바 메스 바로 침베 르데레 타베 따와 예 난니 따디 쩨바 젠도 유루스 르데리나 케버메 제숨바타로스 다 따웨 야와 셰바 메사디 유동반이 유기 차네 개발 셰바 메스 딜 고고게 임을 듣고 딜 진삼지 고그래 따웨 야와 셰바 메사디 유기 차네 동반이기 동출라 에네 돌람당 알람을 개발 자와니네 메스 어따 두스 임바래 에네 쩨바트 타바 딘징 쩨바트 타베 타베 따와지 예베이나 따드 쩨바친 교야 냥가 요레스 따와 딘루 다 딜레 쩨바 딘루를 잔 차야 냥가 요레스 어디레다.
And the text goes on to say, here I will present a guide to Mahamudra that accords with his thought and expound a way to point out the mind's nature that accords with the teaching of the lineage gurus. Then Rinpoche continued to read. Of the two ways of practicing Mahamudra, the first, the way of practicing according to the sutra system, is the way of cultivating the wisdom realizing emptiness, with emptiness being the explicit subject matter of the three Mother Perfection Sutras, the extensive, the middle length, and the concise. Now here Rinpoche elaborated saying, well, you've got these three sutras that are mentioned here, also described as Mother Sutras, as Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. And although usually it's said that they're at Rajgriya, they were taught at Rajgriya at Balcha's Peak Mountain or at Balcha's Mountain, well, that's mainly the case. And some sutras were also taught in other places, and still they're part of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. But we can say the majority were taught at Vulture Peaks Mountain or at Balcha Mountain, as it's also called at Rajgriya. And it mentions only 3 of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. There are many more. So the 3 mentioned here, the extensive one has 100,000 verses. The middling or the medium size, the middle length sutra has 20,000 verses. And then the short or the concise sutra has got 8,000 verses. Well, you've got more than those, as just mentioned. So for instance, the Heart Sutra is another example of one of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras or one of the Mother Sutras. And what they teach is they explicitly teach emptiness, the ultimate truth. That's what they explicitly set forth. And they implicitly, or in a hidden fashion, as it's also described, they teach the path. They teach what are called clear realizations, which is just another words of saying path. So those are implicitly taught in a hidden fashion. They are taught. Then Rinpoche went on to read, this practice has been hailed in the Mother Sutras as the true life force of the path of all 3 vehicles. The Supreme Arya Nagarjuna declares that apart from this, no other path will lead to liberation. He states, the Buddhas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Shravakas, the path I relied on with certainty for liberation is this one alone. There is no other. Be sure of it. Not only that, in Vajrayana too, there's no different view that is distinct or somehow superior to this one. This is as stated by the exalted Sapan in the following. With respect to perfection and secret mantra, there's no indication of any difference in the view. For if there's a view superior to that of perfection's absence of elaboration, then that view would entail elaboration. If it's free of elaboration, there is no other difference. Or there's no difference. There's then no difference, sorry. So what is this saying here? Well, first of all, Rinpoche said in the Tibetan, there's like a little symbol missing, like a shitsam. It's kind of like it shows that it's the end of this this paragraph. But anyway, it's only in Rinpoche's text, not obvious from the English. But the point is here that there's no difference, Rinpoche explains. Rinpoche explained that there's no difference from the point of view of emptiness. So the object of emptiness, the object that is the object of the view of emptiness, which is the lack of inherent existence, is the same. There's no difference. If someone were to say hypothetically that there is a different kind of emptiness, so emptiness is described as the absence of elaboration, like the absence of the extreme of inherent existence. So without these, so emptiness is free from that elaboration. If there were to be another type of emptiness, then the only other possibility would be that it entails elaboration, that is not free from elaboration. And if it's not free from elaboration, it cannot be actual emptiness. But if it's free from elaboration, the kind of
chö nam kungi rangshin chaja che sene chakchen gi ngunzi docho ne ene chö tamje gi nelu tongwa ni de chaja chimbu re sene sungba chi re kazang ngu che sare o ta tendawati ene chö nam gi nelu tongwa ni singen de she de ke chimbu re ngomul lu gi ene nindu gi changju ranje gi changju sanje gi changju thoba kamje ji yeba ina ya chö nam gi nelu tongwa ni sa di ane 마셰바 델레 셴베 ane 타바드베 고치 요마레스 ane 사지빈디게 룽티타네 ane 상아 라야 ane 유동바니라 케벌큐니 요마레 유제 디 단다 사자랑 숭구도 민도데 ane 유제eng 찰라 ane 상알 단돌람니라 ane 케벌 첨부 요데베지 오토스르바스 ane 도이 갑라이나 sheba rakpegi yu tongpa nyingeba mato sheba shindu tawe yu tongpa nyingeba sungu marabas nga kabla ina nyungmewe segi sem tanda tanda nga ranzo nga ulu chaja chimbu she indu sem shindu tawe yu tongpa nyingeba da sungu yorabas o da kebar duwas o da tanda kebar me sunga de yu tongpa nyira kebar me sayad o duksires tanda indu jidan tongni singindi ge chimbu indanti tanda ngodru nang songas.
So it is free of elaboration. There's no difference. Here it's saying if there were elaboration, if the second type of, no, sorry, if there is no other emptiness, if there is no other type, well, then there can only be this one. So if it's free from elaboration, I'm sorry, if the second type, there were a second type and it's free of elaboration, that shows there can only be that one type. So anyway, Rinpoche then asked how much time do we have left? And the Hebrew translator said 3 minutes. Anyway, so Rinpoche said to summarize, all phenomena lack inherent existence. So this is what Mahamudra refers to, as was said in the very beginning, that the nature, the actual nature of phenomena, that lack of inherent existence, that is Mahamudra. And so this is in accordance with Nagarjuna's intent, or Nagarjuna's thought, when he says that no matter what goal you follow, whether it's the Shavaka, whether it's the Pratyeka Buddha, or the Buddhas, the goal of Buddhahood, whether it's any of these paths, well, there's no other path than emptiness, than the realization of emptiness. So you need it to become, you need to when you're a Shravaka, Pratyeka Buddha, or a Bodhisattva. And Sakya Pandita has also expressed this in his quote that was previously read, that there's no difference, even in Tantra, there's no difference when it comes to the object, which is emptiness. There's no difference. So implied by these words, and he didn't say so, but implied by that is that from the point of view of the mind, there's a difference between the sutric and the tantric system. The mind realizing emptiness, of course, there's a difference. Because in the sutric system, it is the coarse mind that is utilized, while in the tantric system, it is the subtle mind. So in that sense, we have to distinguish between the two. So this distinction is important. But other than that, yes, so therefore it's from the point of view of the object emptiness being the same, but the difference being in Sutra and Tantra being the difference between Sutra and Tantra being the mind realizing emptiness. Therefore, now here on the Sutric level, we're dealing with emptiness as the object. The part that I didn't go through because I couldn't find a part of the text, I'm happy to go through it after the teachings are over. If the Zoom continues, I'll quickly go through it based on what Rinpoche said. So for those who are interested, please don't go away. Thank you.
אוקיי, בסדר. אז אנחנו סיימנו את המפגש הזה לעכשיו. בואו נקדיש את כל הפוטנציאל החיובי שצברנו ביחד היום. בזכות חסד זה לא אשיג במהרה את מצב הגורו בודה.
The dedication prayers.
כל הנודדים עד אחד. לו תודעת ההערה אלאית תקרת הערך שטרם נולדה תיוולד. לו זו שנולדה לא תתנוון ותשגה עוד ועוד. בארץ זו המוקפת.
In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful, generous, dancing Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. The brave Manjushri also summoned Habatra realize things as they are. Therefore, in order to be able to follow their example, I dedicate these merits in the best way. With the dedication, praise the Supreme by the victorious ones of the 3 times. I completely dedicate all these roots of virtue so that I might engage in the noble deeds of a bodhisattva. May the precious Bodhi might not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So again, if you're interested in hearing about what Rinpoche